now that I've made an Olympic team, my next goal is I really want to medal at the LA Olympics. That's a huge goal. But I think with 4 more years of consistent training and looking back at the progress I've made in the last 2 years, it's I truly believe that that's a possibility for me. So yeah, just dreaming bigger, and I have a lot heftier goals now.
That was Emily Mackay today on the Running Effect podcast. And I'm your host, Dominic Schlueter. Thrilled you've clicked on today's episode and conversation. It's a good one. Emily is an Olympian. She has run 3:55 in the 1500, which is the third fastest time ever run by an American woman. She's very, very good at what she does, and I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to pick her brain and get all the wisdom and insights that is in her head out for you guys, and hopefully you guys can apply these things into your running and into your life. She's got a unique story, a unique backstory in the sport. She actually almost gave up, hung up the spikes, retired from the sport of running while in college, and that part of her story was really inspiring to me. I'm excited to share that part with you guys as well. If you enjoy this one, share it with a friend, a family member, a teammate. Help us out. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm assuming you enjoy it. So do me a favor, share the podcast with someone you know so that we can reach more people and hopefully make a greater impact in the process. And then the cherry on top, hit the follow and subscribe button. Follow button if you're listening on an audio platform, subscribe button if you're listening on YouTube, and give us a 5-star review. With all of those notes aside, I appreciate you all. Hope you enjoy this conversation with the one and only Emily Mackay. Emily Mackay, welcome to the Running Effect podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Briefly before this, we were talking about how bad the winter weather in Boston is. What is the best thing to do in Boston? Because the weather is bad just in general, but for running, it's worse, when it's cold outside. Mm-hmm. But there are some pros to cold weather. You can get cozy. You can go to a coffee shop. What are your favorite things in Boston this time of year from a wintry perspective, if any?
Ooh.
If any?
Definitely coffee shops. I just went to one yesterday with some friends to sit down and get some work done. And yeah, it's just a cozy, nice vibe. There's lots of good coffee here in Boston, which I greatly appreciate. And then, yeah, just also, I feel like it's easier to relax in the winter because there's less fun things to do outside. I just don't even want to be out there at all, to be honest, other than running. So it forces me to slow down a little bit more and take more time to relax and get some more naps in the afternoon and stuff like that. So
what are Emily's power ranking top 3 favorite coffee shops in Boston?
Ooh, right now, okay, I will say the coffee is better in Flagstaff than in Boston. I have
Really?
More of an opinion of my favorite coffee shops in Flagstaff, but in Boston right now, there's this coffee shop near the track. It's called, I might butcher the pronunciation, but I think it's called Kohi Coffee. That's really good. And it's right across from the track. So it's super convenient. And then there's this place called Pavement. They have really good bagel sandwiches and really good coffee. And then Fuel America is my third pick. They have good smoothie bowls and good coffee. So
I was in Boston for the first time ever, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I went to Tate. Is that how you say it?
Oh, Tate, yeah.
Is that overhyped or no?
No, I used to think it was overhyped, but it's growing on me. Yeah, I think the first time I went there, I ordered the wrong thing, so I was like, oh, it's super overhyped. It's not, it's not that good. But yeah, I'm changing my mind slowly but surely.
First day, so I went both days that I was there. First day, loved the coffee, really, really good. Second day, they spelled my name. Dominic, not hard to spell. I'm sorry. It's really not. You shouldn't. And they spelled it Dominique. And I was like, what are we doing here?
Oh, wow. Dominique?
I don't even know how.
What Dominique. Even is that?
How do you come to that conclusion? All I could think of was Dominique Scott in the running world.
Yeah.
But I got the second day I got one of their pastries and I think some sort of chocolate, not chocolate cake, but chocolate pound loaf, something really, really good. But I was shocked. I was shocked for a full loaf. It was $44. I was like, who's buying a, is that just me or is that expensive?
It's expensive, but maybe for a party or something. Was
Fair.
it a loaf of like bread or was it banana bread? What was it?
It was like chocolate something, chocolate pound cake, chocolate pound
Oh,
cake. I think
okay.
that's what it was.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's really fancy.
Yeah. I was shocked at how cheap the coffee was given it was Boston. Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
as expensive in Columbus, which is like people think of the Midwest as cheaper, which it generally is. But then I saw that and I was like, they're just inflating the prices of their pastries. So, but it
Yeah,
was
makes
good.
up for it. Yeah.
It was very, very good.
What's your
On a more
coffee order?
Oh, my coffee order. So I'm basic. I just get a vanilla latte, a hot vanilla latte generally,
Okay.
at least this
Yeah.
time of year. And the reason I do that too is generally my favorite, but also if I got a new order every time I went to a new coffee shop, I wouldn't be able to like properly compare and evaluate.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to find the same order so that then when I go to a new coffee shop, I actually like have a good gauge of
Mm-hmm.
whether it's good or not.
Yeah. Oh,
So
I like that.
what's your coffee order? What's the go-to? Or do you
I
change it
mean,
up?
I switch it up. Yeah. I like to go with like a seasonal, like, what do you call it? Like special that they have on the menu.
Hmm.
But vanilla latte's a classic. So you can't go wrong with a vanilla latte. But other than that, I really like lavender, like floral notes. Like if
Hmm.
they have like a rose one. Yeah. Just a fun
What's your
flavor.
Yeah, what's your opinion on why runners like coffee so much? I think it's a very unique sport. Like I don't know of any other sports that are this obsessed with like a substance.
Because we're always tired.
Fair.
Probably, yeah. And then also, I don't know, I think it's just like there's not that much else to do sometimes in the afternoon. Like, or like, even, I guess, even if you do have like another job on the side, like you can go to a coffee shop and get some work done between runs. Or if you don't, you can just go hang out with friends at a coffee shop. I think my boyfriend was joking around the other day. He's like, oh, like, what you do for work is you just like go run in the morning and then you just hang out at a coffee shop all day. Like, it's, yeah. I mean, he's not wrong. It's
Hey, and make Olympic teams while doing
yeah.
that. There you go. I will say it's interesting. I think it's like our generation type of thing because like our parents, maybe coffee shops definitely existed, but like in terms of like hometown, like local coffee shops, I think it's a very new thing, probably within like the last 20 years that like people will go to get work done at a coffee shop.
Hmm.
I think it's like a marker of our generation. It's like a very new
Yeah.
thing. I could be so wrong on that. Maybe some 40-year-old will listen to this and be like, you're wrong. I did that back in the day. But
I feel like people used to go read at coffee shops, maybe. I feel like that was a thing, but maybe not so much working. Because also people didn't used to work from home as
true.
much, at least as much. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very true. All the 40-year-old listeners of the Running Effect DM me. I want to hear what you did back in the day. Outside of coffee and running, what are your other go-tos between training? Like things to do, things you're interested in.
Yeah, I really like reading. I haven't been as good about it lately, but that's one of my New Year's resolutions is to read at least one book a month this year. So I want to like get back into doing that. And I've also been playing a lot of Nintendo Switch. I've been
Okay.
playing The Legend of Zelda. I forget which one it is, but it's the one you're supposed to play first. It's
Do
really
you
fun.
do you convince any of your other teammates to join you? Has Parker gotten on the wave? Did you play up in flag?
We play like Mario Kart and Flag.
Okay.
And like Quiplash. I don't know if you know like the
Oh
Jackbox
yeah, of
games.
course.
Those are fun because
Quiplash
you
is so
can,
fun.
yeah, you can play with more than four people too, which is nice. When we have the whole team together. But yeah, Mario Party, Mario Kart. Um, Last camp we played Smash Bros. That was really fun. Um, yeah,
Has Parker's love and obsession, I'll call it obsession, she would too, of kombucha and Whole Foods rubbed off on you yet?
yeah. How did you know? I feel
Oh,
like you
I've known
already knew
Parker
the
for
answer to
years.
that.
I've
Um,
known Parker for years.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like she's definitely put me on to like wellness shots and stuff. Like I'm obsessed with Whole Foods now, which is so funny. I was talking to my college coach the other day and she also loves Whole Foods and she's like, "You never used to appreciate when I brought you to Whole Foods in college." I was like, "This place sucks. Like there's no Gatorade and there's not like they don't have core power or like a lot of the name brand stuff that I wanted." But now I'm like, I'll pick Whole Foods over any other store.
There you
And
go.
I have one like 5 minutes away from my apartment, so it's dangerous. But
I love it. I love it. On a more serious note, this past year, you've done some wildly remarkable things like calendar year. You placed or you got the bronze medal at World Indoors. You made your first Olympic team. I feel like you've kind of been firing on all cylinders. When you reflect to yourself a year ago, if you had a conversation with that version of Emily and told her all the things you'd accomplish, what would her thoughts have been, and what would that conversation have been like? Would she have believed all the things you ultimately ended up accomplishing?
Ooh. Yeah, I think she would believe it, because I remember thinking back like a year ago, like I truly believed that I could do all of the things that I've done. I don't know so much about the medal at Indoor Worlds. That was like completely not on my radar at all. That was like, I definitely surprised myself a little bit with that and had to reassess my goals after that. But I definitely had eyes on like trying to make this Olympic team. I knew it was going to be really freaking hard, but like deep down, like I really believed and like almost kind of knew in my gut that I could and would do it. But I knew it was going to take like 2 years of like intense improvement to get there. So I think if I were to talk to myself a year ago, I would, um, yeah, just be really excited that I did it, but I would have believed it. I would be like, yeah, like it makes sense. Yeah.
Speaking specifically on the Olympics piece, Mark has done it at levels. He's coached athletes to the Olympics before. Ellie's done it. And so you kind of have that cool experience every single day that you can draw from. What was that like in the months leading up to it, where even I'm sure in workouts or training, like you're doing Ellie level workouts and thinking like, oh, she's one of the best of the best, if not the best in America in this event. Like I can be right there with her.
Yeah. It definitely gave me a lot of confidence. And I think it was so much fun having the company doing those workouts too. Like a lot of the workouts we did, like I don't think I necessarily could have done them alone. So I think we just pushed each other and we helped each other so much in our training leading up to it, and we kept it fun and light. And yeah, I was super thankful to have her there by my side and like also kind of like as a mentor as well. Like she told me a lot of stories of her experience in Tokyo, and yeah, I was very thankful to have a teammate and a mentor who had been to the Olympics before. So she was like very generous to like share some words of wisdom with me. And yeah, it was so much fun.
Obviously, you can do all the training, feel like you're in the fitness in the spot to make a team. But I think a lot of athletes struggle with that like doubt in the days leading into their races or the big race. For you obviously have rounds to go through, first round, semifinal, leading up to the final. How did you get yourself in the place where you believed you could make the team, even though the fitness was there? Like mentally, you look at all your competitors, so many people in the US women's 1500, like have credentials to make it, but only three
Mm-hmm.
make it. How'd you maintain belief that you could be one of those three?
Yeah, I think I visualized pretty much every single possible scenario in my head of who is going to make the team and also like different race scenarios. Um, yeah, I thought about it a lot and it was definitely a little bit intimidating. Like, I forget the exact stat, but there were like over three people and the other people in the field who had made an Olympic team before, and there were national champions and other Olympians and like so many like the whole field honestly just like everyone had really good resumes and really like a lot of years of experience. And that was one thing that I was wishing well, not because I feel like I did everything I could to gain experience in the 2 years because I knew that that was going to end up being super important. So I like kind of took every single opportunity to race and learn as much as I could in those 2 years. But still, like there were some people who had like more years of experience, like with professional running than I did, and like so many people like had that this was their second Olympic trials. So I like it was just I just had to remember like everything that I had done to get to that point, and what gave me a lot of confidence was remembering that I placed third indoors and just like, I don't know, trying to just draw confidence from the workouts I'd been doing and all of the experience I'd gained.
So many people, a few years ago, I feel like breaking four in the US was like a crazy feat in the 1500. It still is to an extent, but I look at your time of 3:55 at the trials where you place second. Is that crazy to you that this is the level that we're now at as a country, that like 3:55 you don't even win the race and it's like the third fastest time ever in that rate? Like, how crazy
Yeah.
is it to you how fast you progressed and how fast we progressed as a nation?
Yeah, it's mind blowing. Honestly, I remember it took so long for everything to like sink in afterwards. Like I was just almost in disbelief of how fast we had run, but also super excited. I was like, "What does this mean, Les? Like this means that like I just accomplished my goal of becoming an Olympian, like making an Olympic team." But I'm like, now I feel like I can like my goal should be to make the final at the Olympics. And that's just like when my career goal like was to break four and make an Olympic team. And I had just run 3:55 and now I'm thinking about trying to make an Olympic final. It's just like it was a lot to process. And it's honestly just like so incredible and very exciting how fast that I mean, I made a lot of progress in the last couple of years and like so has everyone else. So it's like I was like, I have catching up to do, but also everyone is getting better. So it's like kind of I double had some catching up to do, I guess.
You mentioned those thoughts going through your head after you made the Olympic team, thinking about a whole plethora of things. What is that moment of emotion like when you make an Olympic team where it's literally years of hard work and preparation to get to that point? And as you said, like on the starting line, so many people could have made the team. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times it just comes down to like, do you have it on the day? You had it on the day. What was that
Mm-hmm.
night, like next hour, like after you made the team, and like the emotion processing, or even like waking up the next morning being like, that wasn't a dream?
Yeah. I think I made it my entire personality for probably at least 2 weeks after. um, but I was just incredibly excited. But immediately after the race, I was in so much pain. I was like, I'm so happy right now, but I'm like curled over in pain. I just had like a really bad like stabbing cramp after and a headache, and I was just like lactic acid like in my brain. I don't know. I felt awful. And I just remember like being like kind of like dizzy, but looking like for my family up in the stands and just like that's all I could think about. We had like interviews and all of the things to do like on the infield after we made the team, but all I could think about during that time was just wanting to see my family and celebrate with them because they played such a huge role in like getting me to that point. Um, so yeah, I was just really excited to go and be like, we did it. It took so much mentally and physically. And yeah, I had just such an amazing support system, even outside my family, to lean on in like the weeks leading up to it. Because like I had, like I said before, like a very strong belief that I could do it. But like you said, like obviously there was doubt that crept in and like it took a lot of mental work to get to the point where when I showed up to the trials, I felt such a sense of peace in knowing that I had done everything I needed to do to give myself the best shot possible. And I was like, even if can't make it happen, even if I don't make the team, like I think at the end of the day, as long as I give it my all, like I feel like I am going to be okay. Like I know I'm going to be okay because I'm going to have to be okay. But I just felt like a sense of calm and peace and like I don't even know where it came from, but I was genuinely like, especially in the rounds leading up, like my strategy going into it was just to have fun as much as possible because I knew like if I wasn't having fun with it, then 3 rounds is like so draining. I was like, I have to be having fun to make it through like mentally 3 rounds because that's something I'd never done before too. So yeah, there was so much that went into it.
Mark was telling me this in my conversation with him that, you know, he obviously encourages friendship and bonding in training, but the second you step on the line with each other, he's like, doesn't matter who had the better week in training, like get after it, like your enemy's on the
Yeah.
track. How do you balance those two sides where a lot of times, specifically in your event, you're racing your teammates for spots? And to what extent do you know their plans versus them knowing your plans? And like you guys know each other's strengths and weaknesses. How do you balance all those different things underneath the umbrella of racing each other for spots and teams?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like for the trials specifically, like we all had our own individual plans, but I don't think we really talked about, like, we didn't all of us get together and talk about a plan, but I think like we all were kind of just focused on ourselves. Like, at least myself, like for me, how I keep it separate is when I'm racing, like I sometimes like take comfort in knowing that like I have teammates there in the race with me. But also I feel like I'm usually just so focused on myself and my own goals that it's like when I'm on the line, I'm just trying to like beat myself, like just be better than I was the time before. And like I have such like self-centered goals, I guess, that it's like I'm trying to win every race, like regardless of who's in it. So it's easy in my mind to keep it separate because it's like at practice we're just like having fun and training and like working together for our own goals. And then when we line up, it's like I'm still like working for my own goals. And I'm just like competitive in general. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but
No, that makes
all of
sense.
my like goals are like focus on myself. Yeah.
In terms of the Olympics, I'm curious to hear who was the coolest person you had the opportunity to meet.
Oh, well, I technically didn't get to meet her, but I saw Simone Biles, and that was really cool.
How much taller are
um,
you in person?
a lot.
Or does she look really so? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I really badly wanted to go up and just say hi and introduce myself, but she was like talking to her coach or something. So I was like, ah, like it's clearly not a good time, and like to, yeah, to bother her. And at the end of the day, it's like we're all there to like compete and focus. And yeah, I'm sure that she was being absolutely like bombarded by people. So I didn't want to like add to that stress for her.
Was there a specific athlete, when you were watching the Olympics growing up that you looked up to and thought like, I love the thought of the Olympics. Like I want to be in their shoes one day.
Yeah. Honestly, I would say Emma Coburn, um, and also Ellie. So I like didn't really think about like going to the Olympics someday until like 4 or 5 years ago. So like growing up, I thought like I watched the Olympics. I thought it was super cool, but I never really thought like that's something that I can do and that's something that I want to do. Unfortunately, because I feel like it's such a cool like story to be like, I like have been dreaming of being an Olympian since I was like 5 years old, and I'm like, that's just not me. But like after I started like getting more serious about running and following the sport more, which is probably about 5 years ago, I looked up to athletes like Emma and Ellie, and yeah, so I remember watching them and being super inspired in the Tokyo Olympics.
I know a lot of people handle the post Olympics days differently. I'm curious to hear about it from your perspective. You achieved this kind of monumental goal that you had been, as you said, thinking about the possibility of for 4 or 5 years at that point. What was the post Olympics like, and how much did going to the Olympics kind of shift your perspective on your career? Because if you didn't make it, I'm assuming like LA 2028, it's like, okay, got to make an Olympic team now. But
Mm-hmm.
because you made it, I'm sure your goals and horizons are a little bit expanded now of like what you want to do and what you think you're capable of.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like now that I've made an Olympic team, I feel like, I mean, my next goal is like I really want a medal at the LA Olympics. Like that's a huge goal. But I think with like 4 more years of consistent training and like looking back at like the progress I've made in the last 2 years, it's like I truly believe that that's like a possibility for me. So yeah, just like dreaming bigger, and I have a lot like heftier goals now. So I mean, making the Olympics is a hefty goal, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it's shifted my perspective in that way. And then yeah, post Olympics, everyone talks about like post Olympics depression and like how it's like really hard to yeah, it's just like a hard time to navigate. But personally, I feel like I had more of like post trials depression because I feel like I really peaked at trials, and after that I was just like high on life. And then I kind of like came down from it and then had to like get back up and get really excited for the Olympics. And then after the Olympics were over, I was just so exhausted at that point that I was like ready to like I don't know how to explain it. I was just ready for the season to be over,
Like a
unfortunately.
reset. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, like I kind of just want to like go on vacation and like do some fun things and kind of just take my mind off of running for a while because it was a very stressful, very long year leading up to the Olympics. So, and I feel like I was able, like, I really enjoyed hanging out with family and just getting to do the things that I couldn't do before the Olympics. So,
Filling out some more of your story of the Olympian yourself. Let's go back in time to that version of you that never had the dream of making the Olympics. I'm so curious. Take me through your start in the sport of running and what your first impressions of the sport were, and kind of bring me up to speed of how we got here today.
yeah. Wow. Okay. It kind of, my love of running started um, in elementary school, probably in like our gym unit where we had to run the mile and do the pacer test and stuff like that. I just enjoyed it because I was good at it, and my co-ed soccer coaches always told me that I was really fast and I should do track someday. So that's how I got into it. Was I was also a soccer player, and I ended up switching to cross country my junior year of high school. So it was kind of around my junior year that I quit playing soccer and started taking running very seriously. Um, and I had a really good junior year, and then got started gaining attention from colleges and being offered like full scholarships to go run, which I never even knew was a thing. I didn't know that was a possibility. So that was very exciting. And I committed pretty early to Oregon State University. I think I committed in the spring of my junior year, even because then I didn't have a very good senior year. Um, I was anemic and I didn't know it, so I was just like, I'm not good at running anymore, and I don't know why. And then that pretty much went on my entire senior year of high school, and then my soon-to-be college coach was like, "Oh, you should get some blood work done and see where your ferritin levels are at," and it was a 9. So I was like, that explains why I wasn't running very well. And
For
then,
context, what should it normally be? I know that's wildly low, but
yeah, uh, ideally, I think for a distance runner, it should be around 60.
gosh.
Yeah. Because I've like like for a normal, like for a non like elite athlete, I think 30 is like good or fine. But personally, even if my ferritin's a 30, I feel awful. So mine needs to be like 60 plus.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Gotcha. Sorry to
everyone's
interrupt. I
different.
just want to give
It's okay.
context to that.
Yeah, I
Go
feel like
on.
it's such
Keep
a
going.
long story.
No, you're good. Keep
um,
going. I love it.
okay, and then I got injured over the summer before showing up to Oregon State University in the fall, and just had a really hard time getting healthy again after that. It was like this little toe injury, but I had like tears in the flexor plate of one of my little toes. And I kept trying to get back into running before it was fully healed, and then it just kept getting re-injured. So I was like stuck in an injury cycle, and I had never really had to deal with that before. So I had to learn how to cross train, and that really sucked. And I wasn't getting to spend a lot of time with the team because I was injured, and I just kind of I got a little depressed and homesick, and ultimately just decided to transfer back to Binghamton University because I figured if I'm not running, like I want to be somewhere where I'm going to be happy, even if I'm not running. So that's how I made that decision, and I kind of made that decision like not on a whim. Like I thought a lot about it, but I hadn't visited the school or anything. I was like, oh, I'm just going to transfer and walk onto the team there. And I wanted to give running another try, but I was like, if it doesn't work out, that's okay. Um, so I left OSU and it ended up being like the best decision I ever made. So just because I ended up having a great career at BU, and I think it was exactly what I needed. I got along great with my coach there, and she was like very patient with me with getting back into running. It was definitely a slow process because I ended up just like I stopped cross training. Like I didn't do anything for months because I wanted like a full reset. And I was like, I'll give running another try, but like, yeah, I was just like I needed a break from it. So.
You took me through being good early at a young age, getting a lot of attention from coaches, things you weren't expecting, to then ultimately that senior year being anemic, and then the struggles early on in college, and kind of that time away from sport that was extended after probably being like on top of the world, being like, wow, I'm really good at this thing. How did you regain confidence after that kind of hiatus?
It took a very long time, but just trying to like be as consistent as possible in training. And I had a bunch of like scattered injuries throughout my first few years at Binghamton. But it took like, I honestly almost quit again. But then like, I was like taking it like half seriously, I think as like what is it called? Like a protective like mechanism because I like didn't know if I was ever going to be as fast as I was in high school, and I was like I don't want to like try too hard for fear of failure. And like looking back, I realized like that was like it was not a great mindset, but that's kind of just where I was at. And then when COVID happened, I had to decide if I was going to stay for a fifth and sixth year, or if I was going to just call it with my running career. And that was like a huge turning point for me, where it was like, okay, if I'm going to keep running, like I have to go all in. Like I have to like I really want to try and see how good I can become, and stop with like the half in, half out kind of mindset. So, and then once I did that, I just started doing more of the little things like stretching and rolling and better nutrition and spending more time in the sports medicine room, like getting treatment and just doing all the things right. And that finally helped me to stay healthy for a long enough stretch of time to really see like aerobic gains from it. And yeah, so that was the turning point. And then I just regained my confidence from knowing that I was working a lot harder than I was before, and knowing that if I kept doing that, then I would continue to improve.
You ultimately ended up going on to place 14th at the NCAA Cross Country Championships, and then you placed 7th overall in the 5K at the 2021 NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships. Remarkable results on paper. A lot of people chase after things like that their whole career and never get to that point. But I'll take it a step further and say that most people with those credentials don't then go on to make the Olympics and get a bronze medal at World Indoors. What do you feel like was the deciding factor in you really taking these next steps over the past few years with Mark and Team New Balance Boston?
The deciding factors of like turning, like getting
Just
into
in terms of,
professional
that's
running.
probably not the right word. Deciding, how would I frame this? My AirPod fell out. Now I'm like losing my train of thought. The raw realities of podcasting, everyone. What would you say were the biggest factors of that jump and that growth in the sport of running? Is a way better way to put it.
Yeah, so many factors. So my college coach, she was like very conservative with our training. I was pretty low mileage. I think I was running like 50 miles a week. And then I got it up like, I think it was like 60 max in college. And then I jumped. Then when I turned professional, I jumped up to like running 80 miles a week. So huge jump in mileage, increasing like intensity and volume of training, adding in altitude training camps, like so many things I had never done before, getting like weekly massages, and then not having school and like being able to actually rest. I started doubling. I had never done a single double in college. So Yeah, and I'm probably forgetting. Oh, I never wore carbon in college either. So wearing carbon shoes for the first time. Um, yeah, so many factors. I'm probably forgetting some, but and then taking supplements like I don't and it's hard to know like which of these factors like actually is like it's probably a combination of all of them, but just like taking like creatine, beta alanine, being a lot better about like my protein intake, um, stuff like that, getting like regular blood work done, and like I had like low B12 or something like that, just like addressing those little things, like fine tuning and making sure my nutrition's really good. Yeah, I think that covers it.
Yeah, for sure. Does it give you confidence? So you've come a long way in the past few years, and even from those results in college that I shared, you came a long way from those early years in college where you struggled and thought about hanging up the spikes at one point. Does that give you confidence that like you're here where you are now, you've come a long way the last 2 years, the 2 years before that, that you can make a big jump in the next 2 years, the next 4 years? Because it's like buy into trajectory. Like, yes, current results are great, but if you're on a good trajectory, it's almost way more important.
Yeah, absolutely. I truly believe that if I just continue on this path, like I can continue to improve in the next 2 years and the next 4 years, and hopefully after that too, because I think fitness does stack. So the main goal is just to stay healthy. And I think like that takes being a little bit conservative at some points in my training. Like this like early winter, for example, like I took a little bit of a step back and just was super focused on getting really healthy and staying strong, and yeah, just making sure that I could not have like a big disruption to my training, and continue to be consistent for this year.
For those who have listened to a lot of your story on the podcast today, or know you and follow you from other sources, or watching you on their TV back at home, or have happened to be at a race of yours, what's the biggest like takeaway message you want to leave with people who hear your story? What do you want them to walk away with when they hear your story?
Oh, I feel like I always say like dream big, because that's something that I definitely didn't do. Like for most of my life, like even like my first few years of college, I feel like I wasn't real, like I didn't have big goals and big dreams. And I feel like ever since I started to like dream bigger and set goals for myself, like it's helped me accomplish so much more. And yeah, and I feel like there's no dream too big. So it's a little cheesy, but I
No,
just want to,
sometimes the cheesy things are the most real things, though.
yeah.
So, how crucial is it, do you think, for an athlete? Like, it's kind of what I was asking you in regards to the trials. Like, you can have the fitness, you can do the workouts, but the key piece is having the belief that you can actually do it. How key do you think that is for an athlete listening today who like trains really hard? They're doing all the right things. They're even doing the little things. But they struggle with that belief, and they struggle to like set those goals. Something that stuck out to me that you shared earlier was like being fearful of going all in because you were fearful of that failure, and knowing that like you had put in the work and still failed. How crucial do you think it is to put yourself on the line and be okay with failure if you get to failure, but also you're never going to get to success, and see how far you can go in the sport if you don't put yourself in a position?
Yeah. No, exactly. I think it's at least 50% of it, if not more. I think, yeah, it's just having that belief in yourself is absolutely crucial, like you said, to otherwise, like, how are you going to push yourself hard enough to know what you're truly capable of? So I feel like it's one of my favorite quotes that I don't know if it's from my high school coach, but he told me this quote. I don't know who said it first, but he said it's better to have tried and failed to have never tried at all. Um, and that is like, yeah, that's like one of my favorite quotes.
You mentioned a little while ago that Tokyo Olympics is where you like looked up to people like Emma and Ellie. This year, the world champs is in Tokyo. How much would it mean to go back or go to that place and really compete? And what are some things as well that you've taken away from competing at the global stage that you'd look to implement this time around?
Yeah, I think I'm super excited about it. It would mean so much to me to make that team. I think I really believe I can do it, and my goal at this point is to be making finals. I want to be making teams and I want to be making finals. So that's where I'm at. Yeah.
I love it. Short and simple, right to the point. Yeah. Emily, really appreciate this conversation. Final question for you, ending on a lighter note. A question I ask every single guest on every single podcast. If you had Gordon Ramsay coming over to your house for dinner, what would you choose to make for him?
Oh, I have to cook for him.
You have to cook for him. Yes. He's not cooking for you. Roles reversed.
Let me think. Probably, I don't know what my best dish is. I make really good salmon bites in the air fryer.
Ooh.
So probably that, and cilantro lime rice with salmon bites and topped with avocado, and I make this like yogurt sriracha sauce that's really good too.
Fancy, Emily. Fancy. Okay, I see you. I do have to ask you one additional question. Who is the best chef on the team, would you say?
Ooh, that's difficult. Probably Leah Meyer. She is so good at taking whatever's in the fridge and just making something out of it, which is like, that's a skill that I do not have. I have to follow a recipe. So I think she's super creative and it always turns out so good.
Well, Emily, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story and so much wisdom and insights from your career. I greatly appreciate it and can't wait to see all the things you accomplish, not just this year, but in the years to come. I know you're going to be a staple in the sport of running, not just in America, but globally. So keep crushing it. And yeah, excited to see it all go down.
Thank you so much.